Welcome back, everybody, to part 2. I hope that you've completed all these squares and you didn't have any problems. Let me talk to you a minute about them. What I did was I went, before I started the block, and I ironed all of these towards the middle. So instead of going to the dark side, which isn't what you normally do, I just went ahead and put them both to the middle. When I got done with it, I went ahead and I opened this seam because of the bulkiness of all the seams. The way that I sewed it is I put this section on the bottom, this section on the top, like this. I matched my right-hand corners and I sewed past the fold. I took it out of my sewing machine. I opened it up to make sure that it had matched. Now, by luck, all of mine matched. I could see, because remember now, this is on the bias, where maybe yours wouldn't have fit. Maybe when you got it done, your black fabric came over here. The bottom black fabric is what I'm talking about. If that's the case, you need to make an adjustment on your fabric. So if this comes too far over, then you're going to want to move the bottom fabric further over to the left. Now, if it's a little bit, that's okay. If it's a lot, then it's an issue. Now, I do not know if you recall, and this is just so that you can, it'll help you in the future if you don't recall. Whenever you lay your fabric down, if you put, let's say this fabric is a little bit more than this fabric, the feed dogs will gather this fabric more than it will the top. So you can ease in fabric if you have it against the feed dogs versus against your foot right here. And you can try a sample so that you know what I'm talking about. Remember the sample that I just showed you, that strip, and we were ripping it out? Okay, take a strip. Don't sew it yet. Take 2 strips. Make one about 1/4 inch too small. Put the longer one on the bottom and the shorter one on the top. Put it underneath your foot. Now the long one's underneath facing the feed dog. And as you sew, you don't need to pin it, okay? If you want to pin it, that's fine, but you're going to pin it the whole entire distance. It's going to have little ripples all over the back of it. So you put your foot down, you put your needle down, and you hold on to the top, which is your short piece, and slowly feed it through. And when you get done and you flip it over, the ends will actually line up, because the feed dogs have slowly fed that 1/4 inch all along that seam and evened it out. That is the reason a lot of people use their walking foot, because it's feeding the top and the bottom to make it even. Otherwise, the top doesn't do anything. This foot does not feed. Just the bottom feeds. But on a walking foot, they both feed interchangeable. So I hope this has helped you a little bit and nobody's had any drastic problems putting this section together. So let's put that aside. The next step is number 9. This is where you're going to grab your half square triangles in the dark or the black, however you've made them, and your remaining L units. You're going to take an L with the white on the top. You're going to take one of your half square triangles, and you're going to be putting them together just like this. And all we're going to do is sew them from one end to the other. So this will seem really simple. Now the difference that you're going to want to make sure is that if this is ironed to the dark side, this needs to be ironed to the light side, so that your seams, let me flip it back around here, put it on, they nestle so that all that fabric is not against each other. You've got half of it on this side and half on this side. All right, so just put it together. And I usually start off of the bulk. I start with the easy and then I go to the bulk. All right, that's it. I'll get us started here. Let me get them pinned. I'm back. Okay, so I'm done, and the very first thing I noticed with the very first one I pinned has the issue I just spoke about. So now you will see what I was talking about with the feed dogs. Let me first show you the fabric. As you can see, I got a bit of gapping, and I've pinned it from one end to the other, so the part that's the biggest with the gap is going on the bottom. And I sew it just like I normally sew it. I haven't changed anything. Take my pin out, and I'm holding on to this, laying it flat, coming to the tail end. The pin out, and go ahead and continue sewing. Let's take a look at it. Here it is. And I don't know if you can even see it because it's black on black, but there is no puckering, no little pleats, nothing. It just all sewed. It literally fed it through there. All right, that's the only one I got like that. The rest of them are fine. They all looked good. They all pinned correctly. There's no bulk or anything in any of them. They all look good. So I just finished sewing these. Now, let's take a look at every one of them. Make sure they're good. Yeah. Yep. And yep, so I'm going to iron them all open. There's what they look like when they're all ironed. And you may have noticed that while I was ironing up there, I said that I had a dry iron and that iron has water in it. Well, when my iron broke, my daughter recommended that I could have her iron if I wanted it, so that's why it's the blue one up there. And although it has water in it, I'm not using the water. So unless you turn it on to steam on those irons, they don't spit steam out. So anyway, and the only difference between the color of the iron is the cord length, believe it or not. The yellow has the longest cord length, and I want to think that this blue one has the shortest cord length. She couldn't find her box, and I have not measured the cord, so I couldn't tell you what the cord is. So this was step number 9, and now we're going to do step number 10. Now, since we have 2 eyes in the blocks, we're going to call this the S block. That's what I'm going to call it. You're going to take the block that you had done previous to this one, or the unit, not the block, and we are attaching these 2 together. That's what we're going to do. So let me get them pinned. All right, I've pinned all the intersections on the very first one because I'm going to do a complete one first to make sure it works. This is another place that we're going to have to slowly feed it in. If you got to flip it from one end to the other, that's fine too. I'm coming up to the first intersection, and I'm going to have to flip it over. Let's see, because, well, maybe not. Let's see, here we go. Let's try it on this side. Let's take that out, and hopefully I pin that intersection really good. Find out here in a minute. Alright, let's take a look at that. Let's do one more stitch. And let's take a peek. It looks like I could have went up a little bit more on this black here at the intersection, so I need to go up a little bit more, so I'm going to take it out and redo it. But first, I'll pin another one. Oops, back to that one. Let's see here. Let's see if that'll work a little bit better. I went ahead and left this intersection open this time. The last time I shut it thinking it needed to be, and I just put one side and one the other, but maybe it needed to be opened. Let's see here. That could be my problem with that other one. Let's see if that one's any better. Yes, that looks a lot better. So I need to sew the other one upside down. And here's the little envelope I was talking about. Also could represent a bat if you think about it. Alright, let me do a couple more. It worked once, maybe it'll work twice. Let's take that pin out there. Like it's not laying quite right, and I'm not, there we go. Not sure why it was doing that. That one looks good, but it looks like it's off on the corner there, so I need to bring, see how it's off right there? So this top one needs to go over a little bit more to the right. See if the intersection looks pretty good. But it looks like there's enough give in this fabric right here on the top to move it over. So I'm only going to take it out right here and move it over. And then go ahead and finish your last one, and I'll be back. Okay, here they are, all four done. Next one is, they want you to take, which I call these the envelope. And the flying geese, and we're going to be putting them together. You're going to make sure your black is on the bottom. And it's going to go like this. Just like that. Because I've done this in two parts, I did not catch the mistake in the directions. When I was making a comment, I think I made a comment about how I felt like these two were overlapping too much. The directions said to cut this fabric, if I'm not mistaken, 2 3/8 by 4 1/4, and it should have been 4 1/2. So if you have been following along and you've been watching this and not done anything yet, and in my case, I cannot go back because I was only given the exact amount of fabric to make this, and I have no extra fabric with squares, and I don't have any in my stash, and I don't even have a white that would match this. So I can't go back and redo it. I can only make notes on my piece of paper if I ever want to make this again, that this should have been 4 1/2, not 4 1/4. Which when I did my first video, I actually said 4 1/2 and corrected it in the video by writing on the screen to 4 1/4. So evidently, subconsciously, I knew that it should have been 4 1/2, but there's nothing I can do about it now. So this is what I'm going to do to compensate for it. I'm going to split up, and I'm going to come over a little, that's not quite an 1/8. And I'm doing it on both sides. So this is going to be bigger. The D is going to be bigger than the white. So I'm going to feed the D through my feed dogs to get it, to make it, because when I go to sew my seam down here, I just won't have a 1/4 inch seam. I'll have less than a 1/4 inch. But I don't want to try to take an entire 1/4 and compensate for it, because I think it'll end up with a bunch of bulk and everything. So I'm going to sew this one first and see how it comes out. I'm quite disappointed that I didn't get to put this all on one video, but my phone was not going to hold all that. I don't even have that many pictures on my video, on my phone, but it always says I don't have enough space. Let's see if I can get this. And then I'm going to go ahead and I am going to try one. Let's see how this worked first. Let me take a look at it. Actually, that's not too bad. I don't know if... Let me try the next one. Let's see if I can go from one end to the other. Let's see here. That might be really, really pushing it. Let's just take it off the corner just a little bit. Let me see. All I'm trying to do is when I put this extra pin in it this way, this pin is supporting this pin so that the fabric's not distorted. But I don't know if that's even going to work, to be truthful with you. We'll find out here in a minute. Gosh, I'm so disappointed. But hey, we do what we gotta do. Darn. Alrighty, let's see here. It's not the first time I've had a pattern that wasn't right, but let's see here. I'm really holding on to it. Let's see how it works. Okay. Take the side pins out. I guess it didn't do too bad. It's got a lot of stretch in there. I mean, you can tell. Let me see it here. You can tell the difference. It's not too bad. It's just that when I go to sew that 1/4 inch, let's find my ruler here so I can show you. Where's it hiding? Here we go. Okay, so let me go up to here because the black is the real seam. So see, it's 1/2 of a 1/4. So the 1/4 inches right here. So it's still going to catch enough, and you can always double. In other words, sew it twice if you're worried about it coming apart. I mean, that's just for you that have followed along and cut it all out right along with me. And we've all made a mistake, but if you got other fabric, by all means, you can correct it. You know, if you're not following, using this kit that was bought, you'll have the fabric for the white. So that's just the way I'm going to do these other two, and then I'm going to iron them. I should have went with my instincts, but no, I didn't. Oh, well. But that's okay. Live and learn. That's what it's about. What is it? Make lemonade with lemons or something like that, I think the saying is. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to finish these two, and I'll iron them, and then I'll be right back. I went ahead and I ironed them. They're just going to have to be short like that, and hopefully I'll catch it in the seam. But I went back to the directions to make sure that it wasn't me that read it wrong. And it's not me. See if I can put the directions up there. don't know if you can even see them. This is the directions right here. You're subcutting 8 2 3/4 by 4 1/4. It should have said 4 1/2. So I'll fix this on this piece of paper. And since I am also doing that Christmas one, I will not be using the fabric that I purchased, and I'll make it out of my own scraps before I actually make it out of that fabric, just in case there's also a problem with the directions. Now let's move on to the very next thing to do before we start putting it together. You're going to take your little orange and white, and we're going to make pinwheels. And this is the way you make pinwheels. You take it and you lay it like that, and the last one goes like this, and it goes like in a circle when you put it together. So you put these two, you sew that, you put these two, and you sew that. So let me turn my sewing machine back on. Let's see if they match. Yep, that one did. And that one did. Let's get the snips here. Now we got to do this, and you want to connect your intersection. That's not going to last because you can't come on top of it. Let's just see if we got it. See, that turned on me a little bit. Boy, gotta be brave and get right up to your pin. I hope I got that on the first time, because that'll be a booger to get if I gotta repeat it. Oh my goodness, bingo. Gee whiz. There we go. We got it. Now I've got to open all those seams when I iron. There's what it looks like when you open up all the seams. It's not perfect, but it's good. It's got one spider, oh, 2 spiders actually in it. After all that work, we are down to 3 units. The units that I call the envelopes. The envelope with the half square triangles, with the flying geese, excuse me, and then the pinwheel. The pinwheel is going in the middle. All right, I'm going to lay it out here on the table and show you, and then we're going to sew it in rows. Okay, so here's what it's going to look like. So see, that's not too bad. And we're going to take this one, and this one, and we're going to sew them all together. We're going to do the next row and the next row, and then when we're done putting all 3 of these together in each row, then we'll go ahead and we'll piece them, and then we'll be finished with this. Boy, this turned out really, really nice too, even with the mistakes. So let's get started putting these 3 pieces together to create the 3 rows. Now I pinned the dickens out of mine, so let me see if this works before I actually show you another one that I've pinned like this. Well, I haven't pinned it yet, but I will. So let's see if I can get this to work first. I'll go from there. Tricky part is going to be getting right through the middle of this, but you can always come back and do it again if you have to. Let's see if it worked first, or if it even got close, and I'll show you on the next one what I did. Okay, I'm off just a hair, but I can live with it. So let me show it to you. Oh, and it's actually this way. Now when I pin this one to the next one, I'm going to show you what I did, and then I'll explain it. Alright, so the first thing I did was I went ahead and I did this one seam, which is the easiest to do. So all you do is you're matching it up, you know, just like you do your regular. Let me make sure my hands are in the way. Okay. So I just bend it down, look at it, lay it right up against it, and then put a pin in it. Just make sure it butts up. You can feel it with your hands whether it butts or not. Alright, so that's my starting point. Then I go to the end down here, and I'm going to have to match this with this, which is the other side seam coming down. So I go ahead and I put a pin right in the middle of that seam, which is the flying geese, which you can see right here, and put it on the tip of that. And then I go ahead and I pin. Did I lose it? Let's see. Yes, I did lose it. Let's go right there. And I pin it sideways like this. That way it helps me in this corner. Okay, because I need to get in the corner here, and I need to make sure there's going to be enough going. See how I got too much? So I'll have to do this with the feed dog, so it, or pull it to make it spread out. Alright, so I got this end. Now, this part right here is going to be the hardest one for you to do, because we're talking all of this. It's this little tip and that little tip. So, a rule of thumb is find the let's see if you can even see it here. What you're looking at is you're looking at this piece right here where the two met. So you put your pen through it, and you see right here, it's on the tip of that, and then with that, you're going to put it in the tip of this one, which is right there, and you push it through like that, and you're coming out the end here. Now, push the needle straight through. You don't want to bend the needle up or down, because that'll make one of your fabrics go down and one go up. So while it is straight through there, you're holding this, you take your pin, and on the left side, which is where the sewing machine is going to sew, I come straight down. On the right side, I go from the bottom up and out. Let me see if I can get it out. Okay? And the reason for that is, if it pulled any down here, it's going to pull it back up there, so that this needle, it still stayed straight. Okay? It didn't go down and it didn't go up with me pinning. And that's what you want. You don't want it going down or up. You're trying to get that intersection perfect. And it's got all that bulk. Then I go here to the other end, just like I did before, on the side. Put it through the middle of that. And through the middle of this one here. And all I do is go sideways as if it was a seam. Then I go up here to the top, make it go to the corner, and pin it. Try not to stick yourself, since you've got a zillion pins in it now. So I have a pin down here, I have a pin here, and then I have the ones across the top. Alright, and then I lay it down and sew it. Let's see here. And you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, it's so much work. I tell you what, before all those little clips were invented, can you imagine taking these needles and putting them all along your binding? Because that's what we used to do before we clipped them. Okay, and I go right up to that pen. Okay, and hopefully it got it. Oops, it doesn't even want to go. Let's give it a little help here. Okay, pull this pin now. Make sure the fabric is straight. And then we're gonna tug here. And let's take a peek at that. And it looks like I could have, let me show you here. Well, I need to nip that. Okay, here we go. It looks like my orange is a little, what is it? A little too low. Let's just move this over here. So to fix that, I have to take out, because see, that's the two little intersections you were putting side by side, so I got to take it out and push it down a little bit. But other than that, the rest of it looks good. So I just need to iron it. Here's how it looks when it's pinned. And I'm going to flip it over because the side I pinned has got the fabric that needs to be underneath with the feed dogs. So here we go. I'm just taking my time. I've connected the top to the middle, or the first row to the second, however you want to say it. And I just remove my pins as soon as I get up on them. Let's see here. When you get up to the point where you have your either a large amount of bulk, you want to slowly go through it, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to go across where the intersection is, because that's the part that you want to meet up on the fabric. Let's see, I gotta get that pin out. And also, if your machine doesn't want to go through it, which is possible, then just grab your fabric back here and pull it just a little bit, being very gentle to get it through. You're just helping it along. There's only about 3 places that you got to do that. One was up there. I'm coming up to one right here. This is a lot easier to see. You're just going to go right across the stitching that you made for the flying geese. Some of them are just seams matching seams. Oop, that one tried to gather on me a little bit. And then here comes another one that you got to watch. So I got 2 pins in here. I must. Oh, it's buried over here. Let's see. There we go. Let's get a start on those. Pull that one out. And I hope that thread. Let me get my stylus here. Get that thread down. It kind of pulled up right before it went through that. It did not catch. Oops. Let's see if I can get it to catch. Oh, I might have to redo that. Because I'll take a look at it here in a minute. Take a look at that. Well, it looks pretty good. All the intersections are really good. Let me back up the camera a little bit so you can see it. It goes like this. And there's the top half. Now we're going to pin the bottom. Be sure that, I'm going to call these bats on the corner. Be sure that the bats are going up. And when we do the next one, the bats need to be going down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it. So this is as if the bottom and this is the top so that I don't get it messed up, and then pin it like that. And then I'll be right back. Alrighty, the last row is sewed on. Let me back it up a little bit so you can take a look at it. And there it is, and oh my gosh, it is beautiful. I'm going to look it over and make sure I didn't make a mistake. Heading out, in the middle, the bottom. Perfect, 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 perfect. I love it. And I'm going to set it over here so we can take a better look at it. There is the beautiful finished product. Let's get a close-up of it. There we go. Can't wait for next week so we can put it all together. Everything we've done for the past 4 weeks. I'm going to guess this is the centerpiece. I hope you guys like this video. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.